Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Just relaxing here on the porch. It's a beautiful August day now. It's August 1st. And I'm about to head up to Alaska and do my 19th season of guiding up there at the Burghoff Wilderness Lodge in southeast there. It's near Sitka, Alaska, in the Inside Passage. And really excited about it. Really excited to get up there. I love that place. It's been so influential for me, and just a special opportunity every single time I get to go up there. I've only missed 1 year in those 19 years. 2014 was the only year that I missed going up there. But I'm getting ready and packing. I'm putting together my emergency bag that I carry up there. That has all the stuff I've done videos on it. I've got things like PLBs, personal locating beacon, VHF radio, fire starting kit, first aid kit, emergency bivvies, all these different emergency safety, equipment things that I like to carry with me up there. And it just kind of made me start reminiscing on some of the interesting situations I've been in on the water. Not just in Alaska, but also in bass fishing. And the one that I think of the most when I think of real hairy runs where things got pretty sketchy, and long runs, big water, that sort of thing. The one story I wanted to tell you guys was of my biggest run, my most probably ambitious run that I've ever made in a bass boat before. And that was a few years ago, 2001. We were at Lake Erie going out of Sandusky, Ohio. And Sandusky Bay, it was one out of Sandusky area. Justin Lucas ended up winning that pro circuit event. It was actually the super tournament. That was the COVID year, so they combined the pro circuit with the BPT a little bit, and so there was a lot of anglers, including from the BPT, fishing the pro circuit. In fact, I think all of them, maybe not all of them. But anyway, so it was one there in Sandusky, but for the life of me, I could not catch anything but drum the entire time I was fishing, that general region of Lake Erie. So the 4 days of practice, I spent a lot of time up in Lake St. Clair, because St. Clair over the years has been, it's a long run, but it's also been the best smallmouth fishing, in that area. And so made the trip up there to Detroit multiple times to go fish out there, and that's the only place I could find some fish. I felt fairly certain that I wouldn't catch a limit down near Sandusky, so making the run was kind of my only option, unless I wanted to stay in Sandusky Bay and fish for largemouth, which I hadn't even tried, so I didn't even know how to go about it. Which turns out it's not actually that hard to catch northern smallmouth, or largemouth. But anyways, so first day of the tournament, I know that it's going to be rough. Okay, I've been watching the weather. By the way, one of the best apps that you need to keep with you on your phone is the Windy app. It helps you. It's the app that I use in Alaska to help me plan my days out in some real big water. And it's definitely the app that I reach for when I'm trying to, plan my days bass fishing too, and just monitor the wind. And it was blowing. It was a really, really bad storm. It was coming out of the west, which actually was the good part of it, because the current runs from west to east on the Great Lakes. So and if you have wind coming from the east and pushing against that current, it gets way worse. So that was a good thing, but it was blowing 15 to 20 miles an hour at least, with much larger gusts. And I'm looking at a 95-mile run. I mean, this is a massive run, the longest run I've ever made, and it's over massive water and big waves. So I was really skeptical about it, and a lot of my friends that morning of blast off bailed on the idea. My buddy Matt Steffen, he ended up just staying around Sandusky and fishing largemouth, and we were kind of working together in that event during practice, and he pulled the plug, which pretty shrewd move. I think that was a good decision safety wise, but one thing I've learned in Alaska is no matter what the report is and what it feels like in the bay, you need to get out there and, to the outside the point and be able to see what's going on. So make your decision out there as opposed to, inside where the conditions can be a little bit different. So I get out there, run to the where the lake just kind of opens up, where the islands kind of end. And like, before I get to that point, I'm like, man, I really don't think that I'm going to be able to make this run. But I get out there and I realize that because the wind is going with the current of the lake, the waves are kind of spread out a little bit. So you could they were doable. They were big. We were talking about 4 to 6 footers the entire way, but they were completely doable. Like it just took time. And I remember looking at my speedometer, and constantly it was at 17 knots or 17 miles an hour, and which is super, super slow. But I just took my time and just kept on going. And before I knew it, I was already the majority of the way there. And so made that run across, Lake Erie, which was about 45 miles, that stretch to the mouth of the Detroit River, where it narrowed up and got less rough. And a lot of guys had gone. At the time I was in a nitro, and guys in the Phoenixes. This is part of the reason why I went back to a Phoenix, is that the Phoenix guys were blowing past me. They were going like 30 or 35 miles an hour. I was had to go really, really slow. I'm not saying anything negative about nitro. It's just that Phoenix ride is phenomenal. Far superior than any other boat I've ever been in rough water. That's why the camera guys and co-anglers love being in Phoenixes in rough water. That's not like a plug. That's legit. You ask a camera guy or a co-angler that's been in a lot of boats, they'll more than likely say a Phoenix is the one that they feel most comfortable in those type of scenarios. So anyways, it takes a long time. It takes at least an hour and 45 minutes to get to the mouth of the Detroit River. The Detroit River, even though you can only go I think 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, it was a breeze, and I was very happy to be in the river. Even the Miracle Mile wasn't a big deal. And then once you get to the end of the river, there was a gas station stop. So I would fill up first thing that first day, and then make the rest of the trip up to Anchor Bay, which was another, you're banging through waves. And it was actually, to me, it was worse than the Erie portion of the lake, or the portion of the run, because on the Erie portion, it was 4 to 6 footers that were, they weren't like stacked right on top of each other. I mean, it was a wet ride. It was a sketchy ride. My marshal did not enjoy the process. In fact, he didn't even talk to me for 45 minutes once we stopped. He was pretty harried by it, but I'd been in, water like that many, many, many times. I know the capabilities and like when to pull the plug on that type of trip. But I preferred the Erie portion of that run more than I did the St. Clair, because St. Clair was, it was only 3 footers, but like you had to bang your way through 3 footers. There's no like riding the waves or anything like that with 3 footers. It's like you're essentially, and they were just stacked. So it was just painful. But we banged our way up to Anchor Bay and started drifting. We caught our, it was a decent limit for that term. It was only like 14 pounds. And I lost like three or four, like 4 to 5 pounders that day. I remember both days that I made that run, I ended up, losing all the big fish that I had hooked, but I still had a good term. I finished 35th and got a $10,000 check. But anyways, that going back to that ride, that first day was the roughest ride of the event, because the third day I ended up bailing and just staying in the bay because the wind was going the opposite direction, the more dangerous direction, and it was stronger that day. But it took me, I think, it took me either 3 hours 6 minutes or 3 hours 9 minutes, because I always wanted to remember that run, to run that 95 miles that first morning. So you could imagine how little fishing time I actually had. I only had about 2 hours and 20 minutes to fish each day, giving myself plenty of time to make it back to Sandusky. On the way back that first day, it was actually pretty nice. It had calmed down. In fact, I recall it being flat calm a lot of the ride. So it took me about half the time to make it back. But going there, that 95-mile run was 3 hours and change. So anyways, guys, that was my craziest run in a bass boat in a tournament, was going from Sandusky, Ohio, on Erie, all the way up to Anchor Bay in Lake St. Clair. And to this day, it's one of those milestones that once you do that sort of a run, all other runs, running from Plattsburgh on Champlain all the way down to Ticonderoga, piece of cakewalk. Making the run from, which I've never done, from New Orleans to Venice, cakewalk. All those different runs are super easy after making that 95-mile run. And it really just kind of expanded. I'm just not afraid to make long runs anymore. If I have to do it, I'm going to do it. And I don't have any qualms with that whatsoever, because I've done what I consider is probably going to be the biggest run of my career. So anyways, I just figured you guys would like to hear that story. I thought it was a lot of fun. My Marshall eventually, was able to kind of, decompress a little bit after that initial run, relax a little bit. We started talking a little bit more. He was definitely not excited about it. I did give him fair warning though the night before, just to be honest, because I was like, man, if you don't feel comfortable making that run, let the tournament director know now, because we're gonna make that run more than likely, if it is safe to do so. It's not gonna be comfortable, but I'm gonna make sure it's safe to do so. And he did start talking to me, and I caught a walleye that day, and he's just like, man, can I keep that walleye? I was like, normally I'd be like, no, man, I don't really want to put it in the live well, but because he had such a rough ride, I put it in the live well, and it ended up sliming up my my live well pretty good, and almost lost my smallmouth because of it, but that's another thing. So, and then I put it in my cooler, and I had walleye flavored water bottles for the rest of the week. But anyways, we made up, and we survived, obviously. So anyways, guys, just cool story. I'm gonna do more stories like this. But let me know in the comments below, was this an interesting story or just a waste of your time? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you like, share, subscribe if you like the content, and trust the process. I'm going to see you guys out on the water.